Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chloethedev Unfiltered. Today, I'll be going through the Ethereum 2.0 economic review. Hopefully, chapters 6 and 7. Mika is sleeping right now. I just took her out for a quick bathroom break, so hopefully, I'll be able to get through quite a bit of the paper. It's quite early this morning. I started to get up with Bianca again, which is great because it kind of makes my day start a lot earlier. So she gets up around 6:30 for work. So I do that now and take the dog out. I've stopped going. I'm taking a week break from going live daily in the Marma J Foundation for the Marma J Foundation for Spread the Love. I got shoes for one of the homeless individuals that we were helping out for the past few weeks. So I'm going to be giving those to him today, hopefully. After this, meeting at 10, and yeah, just trying to get back into like research and get back into what I love to do. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. So here's the paper. Came out July 16th. It took me a while to get through, and that's kind of why I started doing these series where I'm going live, is because life was getting so busy and I couldn't just sit down and just read anymore because so much was going on. So by going live, I figure that it might take me longer to get through a paper. At least I'll get through it eventually, and I'll have the recordings so I can listen back at it, 2x speed to myself, or I'll have it playing sometimes and just in the background of what I'm doing. So, first we went through the executive summary, introduction. That was going through just the summary of the paper, introducing what we're going to be talking about. Went through the background of kind of like what is Ethereum 2.0, what was Ethereum 1, where is Ethereum 2 going, the framework for evaluating economic security. So what framework were we using to look at economic security, or are they using for this paper? Then they went into the economics of ETH 2.0, which was the last paper. So after that, now we kind of know how this all works, how this all comes together. So what we're going through now is a quick model walkthrough, going through an overview, general inputs and assumptions, validator cost assumptions, which is important because I plan on being a validator, control panel assumptions. Then we're going to go through network yield, which is a bit longer of a section. Hopefully we'll have the time. We'll see where we get to, though. Let's get started. Sorry, I have my oatmeal here, too. I'm going to be eating while I do this. My throat's already, I haven't had enough water today. I'm a bit dehydrated, so to talk all this out loud, it's going to require some serious... it's all good. So, model walkthrough. Overview. We constructed a detailed economic model built in Excel for the purpose of analyzing the mechanics of the incentive system of ETH2 more rigorously. Over the course of the project, we developed and leveraged this model to articulate expectations and form data-driven conclusions on validator revenues, costs, yields, and network issuance. The ETH2 system is complex, reliant on nearly 1,000 variables that have a material impact on these outputs. And the system is pre-launch, leading to the inevitability of estimation on the model. However, nearly all of the assumptions made in this analysis are supported by ecosystem user surveys, ETH2 forums, example GitHub, stakeholder interviews, and or conversations with the Ethereum Foundation. So they did talk to a variety of people. In this section, we walk through how the model was architected and lay out the default assumptions or base assumptions and its inputs used in formation of our scenario and analysis in section 10. And I think this is great. And I think the one issue is it's going to be really hard to talk to people who only have 1 or 2 ETH. And I think what people don't assume is that potentially a large amount of staking weight is going to come from users who come from these rocket pool type systems who really want to take part in securing the network but only have 1 ETH with which to do so. I know they're not technically staking, but I'm saying if you have enough mom and pop rocket pool type setups, you could have multiple different mini rocket pools where you have, like, you know, only 50 people on that network, kind of like small cell phone networks. So I'm gonna try to drink a little bit of water that I do have. Below, we briefly outline and explain each tab in the model. Control panel. A panel of output cells for core network assumptions alongside dynamic charts and tables for quick analysis of underlying network variables. I need to look at this chart while I'm doing this. I should have this chart up somewhere. This is my rocket pool node, by the way. I'm waiting for my validators. Wait. Awaiting activation, yeah, sorry. I was like, wait, are they activated? No, they're not. For Badasha. ETH2 models that replicate the algorithm of the ETH2 network incentivization system to calculate validator yields for different developments under two different economic environments. The annualized model, an ETH2 model designed to simulate annualized economic conditions of ETH2 under steady state, forms the basis of inputs into dynamic data tables based on the total ETH staked in the network and the price of ETH. The annualized model is not chronological, meaning the engine of the model is driven by variables that are analyzed on a, such as validator rewards and costs, a per epoch basis, and then annualized, multiplying outputs by 82,180. That's how many epochs there are per year. And then the World War III model, assuming a catastrophic event. So there's an ETH2 model built to replicate the inactivity penalties resulting from a delay in finality caused by more than 1/3 of validators being offline, such as in a World War III event. Right? So more this catastrophic event where more than 1/3 of validators go offline, like, simultaneously at the same time. The World War III model is chronological, with each row representing a new epoch. This model can be used for more than analyzing the scenario of a World War III event, such as a simplified attack simulation. Again, yeah, if you attacked, these are the things that would happen in that order. Here we consider steady state to be one where normal, non-malicious conditions apply on key variables, such as the percent of online validators, sufficient to avoid leak mode. The number of slashings per epoch, low enough to not have a significant impact on total rewards, and the price of ETH, stable enough to not cause market panics that could have effects on ETH staked. Data and analysis, assumptions and conclusions from the ETH2 models, as well as other analyses formed for the purposes of this project. Let's see. Data tables, detailed X and Y variable data tables extracted from the annualized model to simplify charting and data analysis in control panel tab. Issuance inflation analysis breaks down total annualized issuance based on type of rewards, penalties, and slashings. Total supply analysis calculates and illustrates total supply issuance and total dollars spent on security for Ethereum, including both ETH1 and ETH2. Okay, so it's a like, you gotta talk about the total supply of both chains, because arguably it's gonna be kind of interesting as these chains become one. What is the cost of securing, but what's the cost of attacking one or the other or both? Like at one point, I think you're paying for double security, right? Because you have proof of work going on and proof of stake going on with the beacon chain. And when you migrate the ETH1 to ETH2, I'm pretty sure you're just gonna have paying double security for a while at least. Variables and model assumptions. A list of endogenous and exogenous variables referenced in the ETH2 models that form the basis of the majority of inputs throughout the model. These are currently set to the latest ETH2 specification at time of writing, but can be easily changed to modify the specs of the system. I've wanted to go through the ETH2 specs. I haven't actually gone through it yet. I haven't had time. Hopefully, after this long paper gets completed, I can set up in time to just start digging into the specs and digging into more. I've gone through it quickly, obviously, a skim through, but not like a deep dive into what's going on. ETH1 transaction and gas analysis. So an analysis supporting the underlying assumptions of average number of transactions per day, an average amount of gas per transaction for EIP 1559, because ETH2 as well is going to be using EIP 1559 as a fee market on Ethereum 2.0. So because the fee market is not yet implemented on Ethereum 1, I guess it's kind of an analysis of where they assume is going to be happening under this new fee market. Required rate of return. Input and output breakdown of the assumptions driving the required Serenity active validator yield, our savvy model, described in detail in section 8. BTC-ETH analysis, okay, compares the relationship between the price of ETH and BTC for calculating beta in the R-Savvy model. Interesting, very cool. So they're using, I guess, the price of another chain to see how ETH and BTC correlate to figure out, how we should figure a model for Ethereum. I guess it makes sense since you have Ethereum 1, at least for now, relying on similar, mining and hash algorithms. Cost of attack analysis. Yes, calculates the cost to execute an attack on ETH2's proof of stake network versus the cost to execute a 51% attack on ETH1's proof of work network, with x-axis referencing different levels of ETH price. Then you have the cost analysis. We deeply researched the anticipated cost of validating across each type of validator environment. Inferring the revenue net yield spread is imperative to grasp the efficiency and resilience of an incentive system that is highly dependent upon price to remain stable. You have the cost of validating, calculated inputs and outputs of the validator cost, which drive the assumptions in the ETH2 models. You have the infrastructure cost. You have the global analysis of infrastructure costs, including average internet service provider cost and electricity price weighted by ETH1 nodes. You have the survey results, and even this is hard, right? You have if you're using it weighted by ETH1 nodes, the ETH1 staker miners and the ETH2 stakers might be I assume will be a completely different set of people. I think there's going to be so many people staking from all different parts of the world. I think mining's a lot harder to get into, and I'm so pumped for staking to get started on Ethereum, for real staking, because once the user experience stuff is figured out, I think it's gonna be a really cool thing. I think 32 ETH is too much for most people, but the whole rocket pool type systems where you could still, as long as you can run this, as long as you have a desktop that's running, you could run a node with 16 ETH now and setting it up lower. I think it's gonna be super cool. Survey results. Summary of survey data from Consensus and Lighthouse used to make assumptions for weights of validator environments used in the models. Okay, so they asked people from Lighthouse validators and Consensus. ETH1 cost of attack assumptions, cost data and assumptions around the Ethereum mining hardware. Okay, I'm not going to go through this, but I will look through it quickly on my own. So you have the general inputs and assumptions. Okay, so I'm going to maybe have some oatmeal now, but our model is based on the ETH2 Beacon Chain Phase 0 spec version 0.1 or 1.2.12, which is mapped out as variables and models assumptions tab. We assume for the annualized model that validators average a total effective balance of 32 ETH. Average, right? Which is interesting. Interesting assumption. You have base rewards per epoch is going to be 4. Actually, I'm going to go through all these. This is really interesting stuff. Max committees per slot is 2 to the power of 6, so 64. Okay, so it's showing you what value they used here, then the actual value, and then very cool. Or if it's 10 to the power of, so pretty much Rounds up to. Very cool, very cool, very cool, cool. 2 to the power of 5, 10 to the power of. And it's cool looking through this because you can see the math behind why. So, like, you read all these numbers in Ethereum and you're like, this is cool, but why is this value? Like, why 256 epochs? Because, because it's 2 to the power of 8. That's the number they use. And if you look into, like, the computer, like the programming, computer science topics, you probably would realize that, for certain efficiency reasons, 2 to the power of 8, the computers will be able to validate certain things or hash certain things or search that prove. Or it always seems to be that all these numbers are not by chance. They're specifically chosen for a reason. So being able to go through these numbers is helpful because you see them again. You see them again in the next paper. And then someone explained it. Someone explains, okay, we're using the target committee size is going to be, 128, but why? So what's the max committee size? If the target committee size is I think 128 is the minimum actually. So that target is the max. It says max committees per slot. So you have 64 max committees, with each committee size being 128, and then validators per committee is 2,000. You're getting quite a lot of people. And then you mean the minimum per epoch churn limit. Minimum 4? That's interesting. It's a minimum churn. So what churn, what I would assume means is node turnover. So from nodes being validating or not validating. Interesting. It's interesting you need to have a minimum. I wonder why that is. And then you would have your churn limit, which I guess that would be the max amount of validators that can leave or exit a network in one epoch, I would assume. And the shuffle round quotient is just 90. I'm guessing that's the shuffling. I'm not sure if that's how many rounds of shuffling you do. Maybe that's how many rounds of shuffling you do. Is it going to go through it all? Because I'm going to feel silly if it is going to go through it all later. No, I don't think it will. So I'll go through it a bit quicker, though. It's not that important. But I'm enjoying it for me. Yeah, so minimum validators to start, though, is 16,000 validators at Genesis. Downward multi. See, I don't know what these downward multi. I don't know what these hysteresis. I don't know what these are. The minimum deposit amount is 1 million Gwei. Weird. So you can put 1 ETH in. Okay, but 32 ETH is the max effective balance. Interesting. Whistleblower reward quotient. Okay, so that's how much you get as a reward. Oh, that's a quotient. Okay. Max slashing penalty. But it's not saying Gwei, it's just saying quotient. Very interesting. Max seed look ahead, seeds per epoch. Min attestation inclusion delay, 1 slot. So yeah, you want to include your attestation. So right in the middle, I can't highlight it. Min attestation inclusion delay. You want your attestation included in the next slot. Yeah, cool. And I'm like reading through all that. Okay, I need to. Okay. To complete a full economic analysis, more assumptions were required to illustrate the behavior of validators and capture network usage for burned ETH in EIP 1559. Fair enough. Importantly, validator uptime can impact the inclusion delays, which in turn has an impact on yields. We separate validator uptime based on three primary factors: internet uptime, power uptime, and technical uptime. These assumptions are key to validator yields, but also unknown until monitoring of a post-launch network is possible, which is now possible, which is so exciting because a new update of this paper is probably coming out soon, which is why these variables are adjustable factors in the control panel. For most of these assumptions, inputs are based on our research and stakeholder interviews. EIP 1559 average gas per transaction, average of ETH1 network over the past 6 months per ETH1 transactions, and gas analysis tab. Oh, I didn't change my microphone back. 1 second. I wonder how this is all sounding. Now it should sound a little bit different, a little bit more centered. Let's see. Hopefully it's better. But now it's good. I can test the different mic settings. So what? 21 minutes in. Cool. Average of ETH1 network over past 6 months per ETH1 transactions and gas analysis tab in EI and EIP. Okay, yeah. Leverage historical network assumptions. For the purpose of defining our base assumption set, we turned off EIP 5059. However, we analyzed the economic impact of EIP 59 in section 10 in a scenario analysis. For this paper, we use these metrics as a base assumptions unless stated otherwise. So these are the base assumptions for the paper. And again, going through paper, it's really cool because the paper sets up this like virtual world. It's almost like a video game. Every paper is like a video game or a fantasy world. And they set up this fantasy world in which they are talking about. So these are the base assumptions or rules of this fantasy world, which they are creating to be as close to the real world as they can reasonably create. So, as close to the real world as they can reasonably create and create some sort of paper on. Economic variable, slashing event per 1,000 epoch. 1. Percent of validators required for finality. 66 point, whatever. Annualized model internet uptime. We're assuming people can have 99.9% internet uptime. 99.9% power uptime. So these are high assumptions, 98.2% technical uptime. I would assume that you need to upgrade your node. You need take your node offline, upgrade, put it back online, that type of stuff. It makes sense. Your node comes offline for that. Some people though, and I guess either way you have to do that. Total supply of ETH, they're assuming would be around that number. I think that's kind of where it is around now. They're saying that if a horrible thing happened, the ETH price, so a catastrophic event, ETH price would be $200. Catastrophic event, the number of validators would still be at 50%. Okay, I think maybe a bit high on both of those numbers, but okay. World War III model. Number of validators, 525,000. That's potentially reasonable if this was running for a few years. And then total ETH staked, 524,000. Wait. What? Those two numbers don't add up. But maybe they're... Are you saying that people are gonna lose so much ETH? Okay, I'm confused there, but that's all right. Maybe nodes will come offline and Okay, fair enough. I guess that does make sense. But 32 and then anyways. Average gas fee per transaction, 72,000 transactions per day. Base fee, tip about. And here's the thing. if the ETH low price is $82 2 years ago, why would you assume in a catastrophic event 200? I'd consider potentially a lot lower, but yeah. Anyways. Sorry. Last, we make assumptions on costs to validate. Depending on amount of ETH staked and the price of ETH, cost of validating can subtract multiple points off net yields. We label the delta between revenue yields and net yields as the revenue net yield spread. Make sense? As shown in Exhibit 4, the lower the price of ETH and the less ETH staked, the higher the revenue net yield spread. Okay. Exhibit 4 is right here, so let's open both of these together. So, as shown in Exhibit 4, the lower the price of ETH, so I think the price is here, yeah. I can't highlight, but the price is on the left-hand side of the bar, here. The lower the price and the less ETH staked, so less ETH staked would again be to the left, the higher the revenue net yield. So, you're going to make more money if the price of ETH is lower and there's less ETH staked, and you're going to make less, less yields on your validator if the price of ETH is higher and things are more secure and there's more ETH staked, which makes sense because the more secure the network is, the less you're needed for security, and therefore, the good thing is that ETH pretty much locks you in. Ethereum, you're locked in for 2 years, and so you're pretty much forced to be incentivized, which is cool. Determining these costs requires a separate set of assumptions. You have the validator cost assumptions. As mentioned in Section 5, we assume validators will consider different validator models according to their preferences, requirements, and scale of their stake. In the model, we simplify the realm of possible deployment types to 7 different deployment models, falling within the categories described in Section 5. You have do-it-yourself, do-it-yourself or the cloud. So that would be, considered, the server I have here running the Madasha node. That would be do-it-yourself. You just get a computer, get a cloud server, you just run the client you want, you deposit your ETH and you go. Software as a service would be like, self-custodied, where you get someone else to take over your stake. I was going to consider this mostly like exchanges like Binance or Coinbase, or they will all, offer custody services where they'll stake for you. Why do I get so many spam calls, man? Where they'll stake for you, and yeah, you'll pay some sort of fee and it'll be fine. Then you'll have some sort of staking pool where it'll be decentralized. You'll be able to run your own nodes still, kind of like do it yourself, but you'll be running it with, extra incentives, but a little bit of extra risk, arguably, but extra security if you consider the social usage together some sort of security, which I would consider it security, so that would be like Rocket Pool. I plan on doing this and this. I do not plan on doing this. This scares me quite a bit. And in my opinion, all ETH on exchanges is ETH that is set up to be exploited, in my opinion. Like centralized exchanges. I think that at least if you get it onto a pool, like if Rocket Pool gets big enough, in my opinion, you'll have spin-offs of Rocket Pool, and you'll have ETH kind of going out, you'll have a dark Rocket Pool that uses more private assumptions, or has more privacy involved, or you'll have ones that have lower fees, or have higher uptime or better, ones that focus on, only these different validate, clients, like only NIM because it's more mobile friendly or whatever, right? Either way, it'll be more and more decentralized. In my opinion, in this system, it always leads it to be better, to more and more centralized, to where the biggest exchanges will have the most ETH and they'll have full control. Which kind of scares me that one exchange, if one exchange could ever have even 33% of the network, they can cause inactivity leaks to their own users and cause they could like short the coin by causing no finality in Ethereum and then get a lot of money I don't know, like I know they'd be the biggest exchange and why would they want to do that? I get it. But that could even be okay, well, exchanges do get hacked. So what if, an exchange gets hacked and so they lose access to their keys and that malicious attacker uses that access point to cause that to happen on Ethereum. So I'm thinking more in terms of not what would big bad Binance do, but more what could happen if someone got access to big bad Binance's keys. Not that Binance is big and bad, but I should leave soon. I want to give Mark his shoes today. Maybe I'll leave at 9. It takes me forever to get through these papers, but I'm going to try and just go through for a bit. The breakdown of validator environments reflects the results of user surveys and stakeholder interviews, which in turn reaffirm our intuition that in phase 0, the validator base will be made up of primarily ETH enthusiasts and long holders. Woohoo! These will be largely divided into retail users and whales. The former are more likely to stake with their own hardware or low-fee mechanisms via their primary exchange. The latter are more likely to use the staking services or in some cases have their own hardware or cloud setups, depending on the individual's tolerance for centralized solutions. No tolerance at all. Kind of. For two of the above models, costs are directly incurred by their provider, who are in turn expected to charge a fee to the validators. So exchanges will charge a fee to the validators. Based on stakeholder interviews and consensus insight survey results, we estimate fees to be around 50%, and for pools to be around 12%. Seems to be pools will be about higher at the moment. Seems like pools are about 20%, and providers are going to be about 50% from what I see. A third model where you're self-custody, where you're validating without running a beacon chain, instead connecting up to a beacon node via API. In this case, we expect a lower fee around 5%. Okay, and this is pretty much what I plan to do is have a beacon node and an API, but I plan on making it like relatively free. I don't really see the point of charging maybe 1% just for like uptime requirements, but I plan on being up anyways for myself as experimental reasons. And why would I charge? Only 1,000 people can get on the whitelist, so maybe I'll have it to where the funds go towards running the Marma J Foundation. But I plan on having a beacon node up as some sort of service for the community. Why not? for at the beginning it'll be free, and I'm trying as like a volunteer service, obviously. Just connect it if you want to as a redundancy service. So maybe pay for another service that you pay for, and have me be your backup service, and then a Marma J Foundation would be the backup service. That's kind of like the way it would be. Anyways, the other models described require setting up hardware on a cloud environment. We make a number of assumptions around each environment. For both, we use Prismatic Labs recommended specifications for guidance, although we expect these to be higher than required. Intel Core i7 or AMD FX. Okay, I have that. 8 gigabytes of RAM. Got that. 100 gigabytes of space available. SSD. Got that. Broadband connection. Got that. Funny, because I just got that. I used to have an i3, and then my laptop's an i5, but it still works on the i5 laptop, although, it worked. But that was at phase 0, and I was trying to get harder and harder. But yeah, if my laptop worked, my phone should be able to work. My phone has 8 gigs and same storage and internet, and so very interesting to see how this all works on Nimbus on mobile phones. So we expect these hardware requirements to be higher than needed and to be competed downward over time. The storage requirement in particular is higher than we'd expect given alternate benchmarks. These expectations are reflected in the hardware prices we based our cost assumptions on. Okay, so they're saying that the cost assumptions that they had were higher, but arguably a Raspberry Pi should be good enough. And this is why, in my opinion, I plan on running it on a Raspberry Pi, because why use such a powerful device like a computer when arguably, I think the goal is to make it run on a Raspberry Pi. So let's try our best. Can we come up with guides? Can we come up with specifications? Because Raspberry Pis are $100. So if we can get ETH2 running on what are these specifications? Are these Raspberry Pi specifications? Because I have seen a Raspberry Pi for 8 gigs of RAM. They do have over 100 gigs. They have 250 gigs, I think, on SSD. And I think they've got the i7. So I think, or i5. Either way, pretty cool. Anyways, there are 3 major costs: the cost of the machine, electricity costs, and bandwidth costs. And they're just saying that the cost of the machine are going to get cheaper over time. The machine represents the largest portion of costs. Interesting. I don't necessarily agree. Well, not if you're talking about electricity and bandwidth being hardware. However, we focus on 4 hardware types: a Raspberry Pi, a desktop computer, a server, and a dedicated node service. Each meet the specifications except the Raspberry Pi, which meets minimum specifications, but it still meets minimum specifications. We expect distribution of these machines to quickly adapt to performance. Each machine's average price is then weighted by its expected distribution and expected over a period of 36 months. Is depreciated. Here's my thing. I think Raspberry Pis are going to be scarce soon. I need to start ordering some, because the Raspberry on ARM Ethereum project has proven that you can run a node on a Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi is $100. So you're telling me you can make a living staking ETH on a Raspberry Pi? Especially if you only run your validator on your Raspberry Pi and connect to a beacon node elsewhere through an API potentially. There's lots of ways to do this. There's not just one way of staking on Ethereum. You can stake multiple ways. I already bought my Mac Mini, so I might use my Mac Mini for now. But when I go to Antigua, it'd be really cool to just give out Raspberry Pis and be like, hey, start testing this, start working with this, and then teaching people how to do these things. And I plan on using Raspberry Pis to teach Ubuntu in Antigua regardless. It's the cheapest way to do it. I can't think of a cheaper way to get a computer to somebody. Phones are too expensive even. I can't afford to buy someone a smartphone, but I can afford to get them a keyboard and Ubuntu, little Raspberry Pi, and a little display. So that's what we got to do. Finally, we discount this number according to our assumption of who will require new hardware. We expect this number to be relatively high given the benefits of operating nodes on dedicated hardware. Electricity costs depend on local electricity provider costs and wattage. So for example, where I live now, I get free electricity. My internet, I get 1 gig per second or whatever for $100 a month. So like right now, my internet speeds, my internet speeds right now are, let's just do it. Nope, that's not what I want to do. So let's do a speed test. So right now, speed test for about 5, It doesn't know it's coming at 1 gig. It comes in, it's shared with all my devices and wireless, right? So I have like 10 devices connected, probably more. So we're at 471. So not bad. I have free internet and I have free electricity and fast internet. And I have free backup internet. So I have redundancy and I can get a battery. So not bad a place to run a server. And then I always spell it wrong. It's RASP. So in Canada, we have, yeah. So let's see. I want to see products, please. I think this is the right one. More info. I want to buy you. Okay, so yeah. So you can get 8 gigs of RAM. And you can get, I mean, I'm not sure I'd buy one of these displays, but let's hit buy now. 8 gigs of RAM in Canada. I can't remember which one I clicked before. Let's click both of these. So you can get just the board for $100. So this is my thing. I think it's super cool because for $100, you can get 8 gigs of RAM, which is the minimum specifications in terms of the RAM. How much storage do these things have? Let's see. And we don't need all that. That sounds like a printer, keyboard, mouse. We don't need all that. You don't need all that. So the basic kit, right, which you might need, comes with a power supply, might be helpful. 3 aluminum heat sinks might be good, so things not overheating, and a quick start guide. I don't know. Sure. Actually, might not even be. Okay. Am I just not reading this properly? 64-bit quad-core processor. Okay, so I guess that's where you're losing out on performance. But what I'm not seeing is the storage. Or is that all there is, and does it not? It's just does it not keep the state of? Oh, maybe the Raspberry Pis don't actually keep a beacon chain; they're just a validator. That would make more sense if there's not really much storage. So this one's $103.45, the same price, and this one you can just add this is way better. You can just add what you need. So let's go. I wouldn't want a case, but I would want a power supply. Okay, 113. Okay, so there's the SD card you buy for it. Silly me. So you can just buy a 250. Wait, it wants. Let's close it. It wants 100 gigs of free space SSD. Okay, so we'll just buy one of those. Probably $100. So now we're looking at $200. You probably want to buy the heat sink. It's like $2. You don't need a guide. It's online. We don't need any of that stuff. I mean, the case might be cute. I'm getting these for kids. Very cool. Very cool. I must honestly. Okay, with a case. Sorry. With a case for 130. So what we're looking at is you can reasonably expect to run an Ethereum node for $250. $100 for the Raspberry Pi, $100 for the SD card, and if you want a cute little case and some power cords and stuff, okay, throw in $50 plus tax, and maybe you want shipping, so $300. $300, and you could run your little validator node. With Rocket Pool, you need 16 ETH. Price of ETH is probably $500 Canadian. $5 grand, 2.5, so 7,000. Almost, yeah, $7,700 pretty much around there, 7,000 something bucks to run your node. So you're probably $8,000, okay, to run your node. That's, in my opinion, your full cost. I'm not, because in my opinion, I don't even consider 32 ETH to be minimum cost because, you know, 32 ETH, there's no difference. For most people, running a Rocket Pool node, running an ETH node, running a custodial node, a lot of it's similar. As long as you can run a validator where you are staking, people are going to feel like they're staking. So, anyways, electricity costs depend on local electricity provider costs and wattage of hardware used. So Raspberry Pis will use low wattage as well, which is super cool. We estimate global electricity costs by weighted average country level cost by the current geographical distribution of Ethereum nodes. Again, it's an imperfect but indicative measure. And I think potentially a better measure would be, I know there's not many staking protocols out now that have a lot of usage, but, there are people that stake. There are networks of stakers, or maybe, use people that, if you can find the data, like who stake large amounts on like Uniswap, like LPs. Like I think a large set of people who are going to be like, you've trained a set of people to be LPs and liquidity providers. In my opinion, staking on Ethereum is going to be similar as liquidity providing for a lot of people. You're providing liquidity to secure a network, just like you're providing liquidity to provide, and you're getting fees. Just like when you provide liquidity to Uniswap, you get fees, and you're providing some sort of service of like a security of a price stability, whatever. It's all the same. Yeah. Easy. Bandwidth costs, the average costs for bandwidth are $20 a month. I mean, either way, I'm paying $100 per month for my internet, so I might as well run it out there. Cloud providers can be used. The monthly cost for a server is $40 a month. Oh my gosh. You could lower it to $20, $30 over time. They're saying you could probably run a lot of validators, and so it could be $2 per validator if you have 20 validators. It just seems like, in a year you spent, I don't know, man. I guess if you're only spending $2 a month and you're doing it for a year, it's only $20. So that's not bad doing it on the cloud. Especially if you consider you're going to have to, update your validator anyways, right? So you get a Raspberry Pi that might last you a year, 2 years. Then you got to get another one. So cloud does get, what's it called? I don't know, looks good at that point in terms of cost, economic incentive, if you only have one validator. At the same point, what I really enjoy about this, the idea of running it not on the cloud, running the hardware yourself, I guess, is your added security. I understand that most people don't care, I guess, maybe. So maybe running it in the cloud will be an issue, this big issue. I think a lot of people will. I don't know. We'll see. I just think that personally, the risk of running something in the cloud and then losing my keys or something in the cloud is such a high risk to me. I know they have secure cloud computing. I get it. Whereas I feel like if I can just set up my hardware, I know it's a hardware system that I've put in locally, I can set up my own security and make sure that things are secure. Anyways. Control panel assumptions. The network economics of the model are impacted by nearly 100 variables, but we boil down the key assumptions in the control panel for simplifying adjustments and corresponding analysis. The assumptions used in the control panel are as follows in Exhibit 5 to 6. There's no way I'm getting through to Chapter 7. Anyways, we got to Chapter 6. What time is it? 8:30. Let me get through this. So it's just saying they're expecting if you do it yourself. Okay, so this is just what they, assumptions that they see. If you do it yourself, I expect you to have 2. If you do it on the cloud, they expect you to have at least 20 to make it worth it. Makes sense. If you're doing it as a pool, they expect you to have half. Oh, did I mix up? Yeah, sorry. Pool, cloud, pool. Sorry, yeah. Pool with the whole. This is like rocket pool. Sorry, I can't highlight, but if I opened it with Google Docs, I can highlight. But still, the pool STAS, like the standard software, is half a validator. They're considering a lot of the network to be that, which is good. I think is what we're going to see. A hardware pool, less people. Okay, cool. Yeah. They went through all this already. Annualized model assumptions. Okay, so they're assuming 1 slashing event per 1,000 e-bucks per person. Uptimes. We already got all this. They're saying the ETH limit ranges from 25 to 1,500. And these are the different tiers of ETH staked. In our base assumptions, as well as over the course of this paper, we use the ETH price of $200, representing the median price of ETH since March 2020, when we began this project. For context, over the last 18 months, the price of ETH has fluctuated approximately between $100 and $100. So, I think that's it for today's paper. 50 minutes, almost an hour. That's fine. I might come back and finish Chapter 7 later. I'm just going to take Chapter 7 out of the title because that is not happening today. But yeah, I hope I enjoyed reading through the chapter. Chapter 7 is a long one. I'll probably just start it tomorrow and just do 1 chapter a day, honestly, at this point. Later on today, I might start going through the consensus diligence papers because I've really been meaning to look through some of those. But I also have this ghost paper. It's only 14 pages, so maybe I'll just get this out of the way today first. I keep getting more papers to go through. So yeah, I think I'll go through Ghost first tonight, and then push consensus papers till later. But yeah, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And if you happen upon this paper, I hope you learn something new or learn more about Ethereum or Ethereum 2, or because I'm learning more every day. If I say something wrong, or if you have any opinions, please leave comments and notes. This is all me just doing my little personal research. So any help or comment or communication with others just helps me more.